Apparently, they're canceling the Dodge Charger Daytona. Let's talk about it. It's called Fake news media was lying to you. The Dodge Charger Daytona is not going anywhere, baby. It's sticking here. Go Dodge. All right, you guys, Stellantis as a whole corporation, you guys kind of not doing so well. But as much as Stellantis sucks, they're keeping the Dodge Charger Daytona for the 2026 model year. And that's what we're here to talk about on the Out of Spec Bits channel. So what's actually happening? Well, according to the CEO of Dodge, Matt McClare, he says that the RT version of the Dodge Charger Daytona is being postponed, not totally canceled, but that's where people are starting to, get this news from, canceled, but postponed for the 2026 model year due to US policies and tariffs. So in the future, if things change with, world relations and trade policy and all that mumbo jumbo, then we may see the introduction of the RT version back. But Dodge is just going to sell the Scat Pack version, the higher performance, I imagine higher margin version of the Dodge Daytona. And yeah, that's the electric version that they will have for sale. We are still getting the four-door version of the Scat Pack, and as well as the six-pack, the internal combustion engine version of the Dodge Daytona later this year as well. So a lot of things are happening within the Dodge Charger space. And I am glad, because I got to be honest here, I love the Dodge Daytona. On paper, objectively, kind of a bad EV. But looks-wise, and I think functionally, it is a really cool car. And let's see if these lease offers keep dropping. Okay, they're having some insane lease offers. I'm seeing things like $99 a month. They're just trying to get them off the lot. Okay, because clearly demand for these things is next to zero. Clearly, the first quarter of 2025, they only sold 1,947 of the Dodge Charger. And I've mentioned this in previous videos, but they used to sell like 20,000 Dodge Chargers and Challengers per quarter. Now, the Dodge Charger and Challenger, internal combustion engine, had a much cheaper starting price. It was expected that, of course, they would sell more of the original Dodge Charger and Challenger. But, not 18,000 less, 2,000 of the Dodge Charger is just really bad for Dodge, especially as Dodge doesn't have a full robust lineup. Right now, they only have the Durango, their three-row midsize larger SUV, and then they have their other car. What is it called? The Hornet. I forgot about the Hornet. Yes, that also kind of sucks. So Dodge's lineup is either old, outdated, and unfortunately, gonna be honest here, electric, which doesn't really speak to their broader audience. And so I think when we see the six-pack version, the inline six internal combustion engine version of the Dodge Charger, then we will see sales for Dodge start to increase. But the Charger Daytona, not doing so well. It's also worth mentioning Dodge Ram is postponing the release of the Dodge Ram 1500 Ram Charger. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Up until early 2026. It was expected to come out later this year. That was actually a vehicle that I was excited for. But then the full electric version of the Ram 1500, the Rev, won't be coming out until mid-2027. So maybe it's just Stellantis and these tariffs and these trade policies are having an effect on them. But yeah, Dodge Stellantis is doing a lot of postponing. Now, it seems Dodge has already started pilot production for the Dodge Charger Daytona four-door version, the actual sedan, which I actually think looks even better than the two-door version. I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking this thing looks great? I'm also someone that likes the look of the Model X and the EQS and the EQS SUV. So I like a lot of weird looking electric cars, but the four-door version is coming, and I think that will definitely improve sales for the electric version of the Dodge Charger. But then again, you include the four-door version, two-door version of the internal combustion engine Dodge Charger, then I think we'll start to see Dodge's sales start to climb again. In fact, the Dodge Charger Daytona starts at like $60,000, but the internal combustion engine version is expected to start in the low 40s. Okay, low 40s. So $60,000 for the EV version, low 40s for the internal combustion engine version, the entry-level trim. That's a $20,000 starting price difference. Yeah, the internal combustion engine version is going to sell well. But furthermore, I think what Dodge offers for the Dodge Daytona, I think in terms of design, not only exterior and interior, and just some of the creature comforts that are standard that we see in at least the RT version of the Dodge Charger Daytona electric version of the Dodge Charger, I think will make the internal combustion engine version a really good buy. I mean, according to Dodge's quarter one numbers, they had over 3,500 Dodge Daytonas sitting unbought on dealer lots in quarter one. That is a lot of vehicles that are sitting there that no one wants to buy. Demand for this thing is really low, which I think speaks to another issue of sports electric vehicles, what the future of that is going to look like. I mean, I think a lot of car enthusiasts who are into sport cars, they're into internal combustion engine vehicles. And there are people out there, probably like you or me, that love both internal combustion engine and electric vehicles. And I can really appreciate a sporty, high performance, well driving EV that, in the sports class. However, I think most people aren't into that. And so, unfortunately, when you make a sports or muscle, in this case, vehicle that's also electric, it just doesn't translate well for buyers. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves. Maybe 10 years from now, the Dodge Charger Daytona, the electric Dodge Charger, is one of the best selling electric cars out there, and it's really sporty, and you hear this thing driving down the road, and it's getting stolen left and right because that's how bad people want it. Maybe that's what happens in the future, but as of right now, nobody wants this thing. So to kind of sum it up, right, Dodge is not killing the Dodge Charger EV outright. Fake news media. All right, the RT is just being postponed. Its future is kind of uncertain. We'll see what actually happens to the Dodge Charger Daytona, but as of right now, it's not looking too good. The focus for the 2026 model year, which is technically just the second half of 2025, so that's very, very soon, that'll be the Scat Pack version of the Dodge Charger Daytona, the four-door version, as well as the inline six versions, the internal combustion engine versions of the Dodge Charger, which, as I've reiterated a million times in this video, I think is just going to be the better product for Dodge. Dodge's core fan base is probably really hesitant to jump into an electric vehicle. And although there are a lot of Dodge YouTubers who have Dodge Chargers and Challengers with giant Hemis, and they've actually bought the Daytonas, and they say that they like them a lot. And so it's good to see that people are finding interest in electric vehicles when they're so interested in internal combustion engine vehicles. But clearly, right, most people, they just want the internal combustion engine version. I'm curious to hear what you think. I think, again, this speaks to a larger issue of sports cars and electric cars. It's going to be interesting to see how Ferrari and Aston Martin, who are expected to come out with electric cars pretty soon, what the future for them is like, because again, people really want internal combustion engine vehicles when it comes to the super sport muscle car class. And I mean, I'll use the Rimac Nevera, for example, Rimac Nevera, the electric hypercar. Apparently that isn't selling too well, which is kind of unfortunate to hear, but I guess it kind of makes sense. When you have $1 billion and you want to buy something special, you want to buy a sports car, do you want to buy the electric car that has, a 0.2 second faster 0 to 60 than a Tesla Model S Plaid? Of course, way better performance, and this thing goes crazy on the track. But in terms of the extravagance, the extremity, the idiocracy, the stupidness of a super sports car, the Rimac Nevera is just not that. And so its sales are reflecting. I mean, realistically, if you have the money, who wants to spend $2 million more for a car that has comparable specs to a car that you can buy for $100,000? And I think that's what we're struggling to see in the electric vehicle space. Electric vehicles in the sports hyper muscle car class are not differentiating themselves enough from our regular consumer electric vehicles. You look at a Bugatti Chiron or Tourbillon or whatever, and it's crazy engineering that then relates to the output of noise, and with that comes the acceleration, comes the power, all of that craziness. And then you have your regular internal combustion engine vehicles. You got your Toyota RAV4s and your Honda CRVs, and those are just normal consumer cars. But every electric car at this point has a quick 0 to 60. And besides that, there really isn't anything else that is separating the two besides looks. And so I'm hoping we see more automakers start to find ways to separate their electric super sport hyper muscle cars away from their normal electric cars. Hopefully that's making sense. I'm curious to know what you guys are thinking down in the comments below, but thank you guys so much for watching. The Dodge Daytona is staying. I'll see you guys in the next one.